In the shadows of ancient texts lies the Book of Enoch, a scripture attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. This work unveils tales of celestial beings, forbidden unions, and divine secrets. Yet, it was deliberately omitted from the canonical Bible, shrouding its narratives in mystery. What made its contents so contentious? Why did religious authorities deem it too perilous for inclusion? Embark on a journey to uncover the secrets within the Book of Enoch, exploring the stories that challenged orthodox beliefs and delving into the reasons behind its exclusion from sacred scripture. The Book of Enoch is not one book, but many, a collection of visions, warnings, and celestial secrets woven together across centuries. It does not speak with one voice, nor does it belong to one time. It is a mosaic of the mystical, an echo of an ancient world where the divine was not silent. The oldest sections are believed to have been composed in the 4th century BCE, with later editions appearing as late as the 1st century BCE. It was written in Aramaic, a language of traders and prophets, and it bears the fingerprints of many influences: Babylonian stargazers, Persian mystics, and Hebrew priests who sought to understand the forces shaping their world. It is a book that does not merely tell a story. It unveils a cosmic drama. The first and most famous section is the Book of the Watchers, the tale of angels who fell from heaven, not out of rebellion, but out of desire. The Watchers, sent to observe humanity, succumbed to temptation and took human wives, fathering a race of giants, the Nephilim. These creatures, monstrous in stature and appetite, ravaged the earth, consuming its resources and plunging civilization into chaos. The Watchers, in their misguided benevolence, gifted humanity with forbidden knowledge, weapon-making, sorcery, enchantments. It was an age of wonder and an age of doom. The earth cried out beneath the weight of sin, and the punishment, when it came, was not just for the fallen angels, but for the world itself. Then comes the Book of Parables, where Enoch's visions turn prophetic. He speaks of the coming of the Son of Man, a messianic figure who will sit upon a throne of judgment. This section, absent from some versions of the text, carries echoes that would later resonate in Christian theology. It is a book of justice, of reckoning, where the righteous and the wicked are weighed on cosmic scales. Next is the Astronomical Book, a guide to the heavens unlike any other. It describes the movements of celestial bodies, the paths of the sun and moon, the secret mechanisms by which time itself is measured. It presents a calendar not of 365 days, but of 364, a perfect, unchanging cycle, untainted by the irregularities of the natural world. It is a vision of order imposed upon the chaos of the cosmos, and some believe it reflects the calendar of the Qumran sect, the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Book of Dream Visions follows, a landscape of allegory and symbolism. In one of its most striking passages, history itself is told through the image of animals, sheep, bulls, and birds, taking the place of kings and nations. It is an encoded history of Israel, a vision that blends past, present, and future into a single dream. Finally, There is the Epistle of Enoch, a voice speaking from the end of the world. It is a sermon and a warning, a reflection on the nature of sin and the destiny of the righteous. Within it lies the apocalypse of weeks, which divides time into 10 great epochs, culminating in the renewal of creation itself. It is here that Enoch's voice is clearest, not as a historian, but as a prophet standing at the edge of eternity. 5 books, stitched together into one. A text that does not fit neatly into any tradition, yet casts its shadow over many. A book that claims to hold the secrets of heaven itself. There was a time, the Book of Enoch tells us, when heaven opened its gates and angels walked the earth, not in blinding radiance, not as messengers of divine will, but as something else entirely. The Watchers, they were called, sent by God to observe humanity, to record and bear witness. But they did more than watch. There were 200 of them, led by Semyaza, a being of immense power. He was not a rebel, not yet, but he was something worse, tempted. From their station above the world, the Watchers looked down upon the daughters of men, and desire took root. "Come," Semyaza said to his brethren, "let us take wives from among them and beget children." The others hesitated. What they were about to do was no small trespass. But Semyaza swore an oath. If any were to suffer for this act, they would suffer together. And so they descended. The world trembled at their arrival, though at first it was not in fear. To those who lived in those forgotten days, the Watchers must have seemed like gods, tall, radiant, beings of impossible beauty and strength. They took human wives, and from their unions came something new, something monstrous, the Nephilim, the giants. Their presence alone was a corruption, an unnatural mingling of heaven and earth. They were not merely tall, they were titans, beings of overwhelming hunger, devouring the earth's resources faster than they could be replenished. They feasted upon livestock, upon grain, upon everything that humanity had worked so hard to cultivate. And when that was not enough, they turned upon men. Civilization collapsed under their weight. The Nephilim ruled through terror, and the world groaned beneath their footsteps. But their fathers, the fallen Watchers, had done more than bring giants into the world. They had brought knowledge, forbidden knowledge. Azazel, one of the chief Watchers, taught mankind the ways of war. He showed them how to forge weapons from iron, how to shape bronze into killing instruments. He revealed the secrets of shields, of breastplates, of sharpened swords gleaming in firelight. And with that knowledge came bloodshed. Others followed his example. One taught enchantments and the art of sorcery. Another unveiled the mysteries of celestial movements, teaching men to read the stars as omens of fate. They painted their faces, adorned their bodies with strange sigils, and whispered words of power once known only in heaven. The world had become something else, something unnatural. And it did not go unnoticed. High above, in the courts of heaven, the archangels saw what had transpired. Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel beheld the chaos below, the earth writhing beneath the weight of sin. They brought their cries before the throne of God. Look what has been done. The fallen ones have defiled creation itself. The Nephilim have turned man against man. There is no peace, only war and hunger and ruin. And the decree came down. They must be destroyed. The Watchers, once mighty, were cast down. The Nephilim, their monstrous offspring, were doomed to perish. And the flood, the great cleansing, was prepared. But before the waters could rise, one man would be given knowledge. One man would be chosen to understand the depths of this cosmic war. His name was Enoch. Enoch was no king, no warrior, no prophet in the way the world understood prophecy. He was a scribe, a man who walked with God, not in metaphor, but in terrifying, luminous truth. And when heaven chose to speak, it was to him. The Book of Enoch tells of his journey beyond the veil of mortal sight, taken not by dream or vision, but by force. One day, the earth simply vanished beneath him. He was lifted up, carried by angels whose forms defied comprehension, creatures of shifting fire, wheels of light turning within wheels. Their voices were like the crashing of waves, their words burned into his bones. They carried him higher than the clouds, beyond the realm of stars, past the gates of the sky itself. Enoch was no longer a man standing upon the earth. He was an intruder in the machinery of creation. He saw the foundations of the world, the places where the sky was bolted to the firmament. He saw the vast reservoirs of snow and hail, the halls where thunder was stored, waiting to be loosed upon the world. He beheld the great cosmic calendar, the mechanisms that turned the sun and moon in their courses, the hidden paths by which the stars moved, paths mapped not in ink, but in fire. He was shown the prisons of the rebellious angels, vast chasms where the fallen ones were bound, their voices lost beneath rivers of molten flame. It was here, in the heart of divine judgment, that the fallen watchers cried out to him. They had once ruled the world. Now they were nothing, chained in darkness, waiting for a punishment that had no end. And in their torment they pleaded with Enoch, "Intercede for us." They begged, "Speak to the Most High on our behalf. Ask him to forgive us. Ask him to lift this curse." For a moment, Enoch stood between two realms, earth and heaven, man and angel, mercy and wrath. He carried their petition before the throne of God. But the answer that came was not the answer they had hoped for. There will be no pardon. The Watchers had defied the order of creation. They had polluted the world, turned men to war, bred giants that consumed all things. For this, there was no forgiveness. Their fate was sealed, their judgment eternal. And Enoch was to be their witness. He was not just a scribe anymore. He had seen too much, been entrusted with too many secrets. He had walked the burning halls of heaven, stood upon the threshold of the abyss, and returned with knowledge no mortal was meant to bear. And then, one day, he was gone. The book of Genesis says only this: Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. No death, no grave, just absence, as if he had stepped beyond the world entirely, vanishing into the space between heaven and earth. But his words remained, and his visions, terrible, luminous, forbidden, would outlive him. There was a time when the Book of Enoch was not forbidden, a time when it was read, copied, and spoken of in whispers and sermons alike, a time when its visions of cosmic order and divine rebellion were not heresy, but revelation. The book's words echoed in the desert air, studied by Jewish mystics, embraced by sects that saw in its pages a secret knowledge, something older, something deeper than the laws of Moses alone. The Essenes, the reclusive community that withdrew from the corruption of the world to live in the caves of Qumran, held it close. They copied it by hand, stored it alongside their sacred texts. It was among them, perhaps, that the book found its greatest champions, until they too vanished. Early Christians read it as well. Some believed it was more than just another apocryphal text. It shaped the way they thought about angels and demons, about the forces that moved unseen through the world. It was known to the authors of the New Testament, and yet the Book of Enoch did not last. It did not vanish in flames. It was not outlawed with proclamations or anathemas. Instead, it was simply left behind. For the Jewish authorities, the book's visions of rebellious angels and cosmic secrets did not align with their evolving theology. It was too wild, too unorthodox. It spoke of a structured universe ruled by warring celestial powers, of divine mysteries hidden in the stars. Ideas that sounded too much like the myths of Babylon and Persia, like foreign wisdom sneaking into the heart of their faith. For the Christian world, the book posed a different problem. The Watchers, the Nephilim, the secrets Enoch had glimpsed beyond the sky. These were not part of the Church's vision of divine order. Jesus spoke of salvation, not of fallen angels teaching men the ways of war. The Church Fathers debated it, referenced it, even respected it. But in the end, it was set aside. Slowly, over centuries, the Book of Enoch faded. It was neither condemned outright nor burned as heresy. It simply slipped into the cracks of history, its words preserved only in the margins, its influence scattered like dust. And then, for nearly 1,500 years, it was gone, until the desert gave it back. There are books that shape history from the centre, held high in cathedrals and whispered in synagogues, their words pressed into the minds of generations. And then, there are books that shape history from the edges, books that slip through cracks, that linger in forgotten places, waiting for the right moment to be remembered. The Book of Enoch is one of these. Its influence runs deeper than its absence suggests. Though rejected by Jewish and Christian authorities, it left fingerprints on the very scriptures that would one day seal its exile. The New Testament carries echoes of it, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in bold declarations. The Epistle of Jude does not merely reference Enoch, it quotes him outright. "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all." A warning from an age before the flood, carried forward into the final pages of the Bible. It is a thread that should not exist, a voice from a lost book crying out from within the canon that refused it. But Jude was not alone. The apocalyptic imagery of Revelation, the war in heaven, the binding of fallen angels, the destruction of the wicked, bears a striking resemblance to Enoch's visions. Some scholars believe that the very idea of Satan as a rebel, cast down from heaven, owes something to the Book of Enoch, where the Watchers defied their place in the celestial order and fell, dragging the world into chaos with them. In Jewish thought, its influence was no less profound. It shaped the way angels were understood, not just as divine messengers, but as a vast hierarchy of celestial beings, some benevolent, others dangerous. It gave names to spirits, mapped out the heavens, and laid the foundation for later mystical traditions. The Kabbalistic concept of hidden knowledge, of a universe built on unseen forces, may owe something to Enoch's whispered secrets. And then, there was the fear. The Book of Enoch did not simply describe angels, it made them flawed, vulnerable to desire, capable of rebellion. It suggested that there were forces moving in the shadows of history, forces that did not obey the divine order. To some, this was knowledge best left buried. But ideas do not die. Even when the book was lost, its influence remained, shaping the nightmares of demonologists, the prophecies of mystics, the visions of those who saw in the sky not just stars, but messengers of things beyond human reckoning. It whispered its way into esoteric Christianity, into occult traditions, into the deep recesses of religious thought, where the boundaries between myth and doctrine blur. Its words were banished, but its ideas never truly left. They were simply waiting. For centuries, the Book of Enoch was thought to be lost, erased from sacred texts, its words fading into rumour and silence. But lost things have a way of resurfacing, and Enoch's visions did not remain buried forever. The first rediscovery came not from the deserts of the Middle East, but from the highlands of Ethiopia. In 1773, Scottish explorer James Bruce arrived in the kingdom of Gondar, deep in the Horn of Africa. He had heard whispers of an ancient book, a text preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, untouched by the Western world. What he found was astonishing: a complete manuscript of 1 Enoch written in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic language. The Ethiopians had never lost it. While the rest of the Christian world had consigned Enoch to obscurity, the Ethiopian Church had protected it, copied it, and kept it as part of their sacred tradition. Bruce carried copies of the text back to Europe, but for nearly a century, few paid it any mind. It was an oddity, a relic from a forgotten past. Only later would scholars begin to understand what he had truly found. Then, nearly 2 centuries later, another discovery shook the world. In 1947, in the Judean desert, a Bedouin shepherd cast a stone into a cave near the Dead Sea and heard the sound of breaking pottery. Inside, hidden for over 2,000 years, were the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among them were fragments of the Book of Enoch, written in Aramaic. These were not complete texts, like the Ethiopian manuscript, but they were older, far older. Dated to at least 200 BCE, they revealed that Enoch had been read and revered by the Essenes, an ascetic Jewish sect who lived in the shadows of the Second Temple, waiting for an apocalyptic reckoning. These scrolls proved what some had suspected, that Enoch was not a fringe text, not a late invention, but a book that had once held a place of prominence in ancient Jewish thought. Together, these 2 discoveries rewrote the story of the Book of Enoch. The Ethiopian manuscript preserved its full contents, while the Dead Sea Scrolls confirmed its ancient origins. A book once considered lost, too dangerous for the canon, had emerged from both the heart of Africa and the deserts of Israel, demanding to be read once more. But its return did not simply settle academic debates. If anything, it ignited new ones. In the modern era, the Book of Enoch has inspired a resurgence of interest, not just in theological circles, but in esoteric traditions, alternative spirituality, and even conspiracy theories. For some, Enoch's visions of fallen angels, divine judgment, and cosmic secrets suggest hidden truths long suppressed by religious authorities. Neo-Gnostic movements have embraced the text as part of a lost Christian esotericism, a glimpse into a more mystical understanding of God, angels, and the afterlife. The book has also found a home in the speculative fringes of theology, among those who link it to ancient astronaut theories, believing that the Watchers were not angels, but extraterrestrial beings who descended to Earth into the distant past. Others see in it the roots of apocalyptic prophecy, drawing connections between Enoch's visions and later biblical texts like the Book of Revelation. Even popular culture has taken notice. Enoch's Watchers and the Nephilim have appeared in novels, films, and television series, their stories woven into modern mythology. Darren Aronofsky's film Noah included elements inspired by Enoch's writings, while numerous fantasy and horror works have drawn from its descriptions of fallen angels and hidden knowledge. In music, literature, and the broader world of occult thought, the Book of Enoch continues to cast a long shadow. A book that was once silenced, buried in the sands and hidden in remote monasteries, has found its way back into the world. It is no longer lost, but whether its revelations were meant to be found remains a question that lingers. The Book of Enoch was cast out, silenced, left to gather dust in forgotten corners of history. And yet, it never truly vanished. Across centuries, it lingered, hidden in monasteries, buried in desert caves, waiting. It has survived not because it was embraced, but because it was feared. Its stories of divine rebellion, of angels who defied their creator, of secret knowledge passed from heaven to earth, these are not the quiet, measured teachings of orthodoxy. They are fire and thunder, glimpses of a cosmic battle playing out beyond human sight. To some, it is forbidden scripture. To others, a warning. And to those who seek hidden truths, it is a key to something long buried. But perhaps the real power of the Book of Enoch is not in the secrets it claims to reveal, but in the questions it forces us to ask. What was it that made this book too dangerous for the Bible? And why, after all this time, do its words still call to us?